Hello viewers and welcome to Voices of Regalo, where your voice is heard and felt, powered by Regalo Foundation. My name is Jane Obodoke and with me is
Orioluwa Abiodun.
Today we have a very important topic to discuss,
Yes.
it is a national issue. And it is conflict resolution. I know that some people are looking at me with all kind of eyes now. So, what is conflict resolution?
Towards conflict resolution. So there's already a conflict. You're trying to find ways around the conflict. You're trying to find ways to resolve, to dissolve the conflict, to bring the parties involved in conflict together and for them to come to an agreement or an understanding.
Okay. So, what does it entails to come to a proper resolution?
I think a proper resolution comes about when you both understand what the issue might have been and you both accept that there's an issue. Because sometimes people would be like, oh, there's an issue with this, and the other person's like, I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
So when both parties come to terms with the fact that there's an issue and then they are able to walk through that problem or that issue and come to an understanding, then I think that the conflict has been successfully resolved.
Yeah, I think coming to understanding, and one thing coming to understanding, it takes a lot because sometimes one person have to compromise. Okay, you talked about understanding, right, during conflict resolution. I'm going to include there needs to be a compromise. You understand? Because sometimes there are some people who they are right, but just for a solution to come, the resolution to take place and all that, they just ought to just step down, just agree, okay, for peace to reign. So I think compromise is also important in conflict resolution.
Yes, I think I want to ask, when there is a conflict or when there is an issue, how do you think it should be addressed? Do you think an immediate resolution, like at the peak of the issue, is important, or a later resolution?
It just depends on the situation. If it is a situation whereby those in conflict might not cross paths, I think you can just take a minute or two, just like they say, breathe in, breathe out and all that, because when it is sudden, as in the response might be harsh. I know when someone is an adult, they take meaning to everything, the tone of your voice, your response, the way you react, and actually maybe they want to feel like, me too, I'm a man, me too, ego. I'm a lady, the ego. So I think that just within few moments, everyone should just calm down and then trash the issue.
So do you also think that there are some conflicts that should be avoided? Like there are some conflicts that you don't really need to resolve. Just everybody move past it. Let's just pretend like it never existed.
When you pretend like it never existed, it's still going to come up
much later.
Yeah, it's still going to come up much later. Even though you don't settle it immediately, there should be a forum in which when everybody gathers or a meeting should be called, and you don't just start with it immediately. You just
you set
talk
the pace of the room.
You understand the pace of the room. You read the room, people there, their faces, their countenances, and before you start. And when that person that is trying to create, solve the problem, you don't have to be biased.
Yes.
You understand? You don't, these people are my tribe, you understand? When someone is trying to give a point, but you said this, but you said that, and they will not be wondering, are you trying to solve this problem?
Or you
are adding fire into it, you understand?
And I think that this also becomes very significant in in the workplace, right? In corporate organizations. But I think if we're looking at conflict resolution when it comes on personal terms, maybe in families and in smaller gatherings, I think sometimes some conflicts are better just forgotten about. Sometimes, in my opinion, I think sometimes there are certain things that would cause maybe an argument or a controversial conversation in, for example, my family, and I'll just let it slide. There's no need to really bring it up and say, oh, you said this the other day and it really pissed me off. I think that it just depends on the situation.
Yes,
it just depends on the situation and depends on the people involved also. And it also depends on why that conflict came about, what resulted to that conflict. So sometimes you need to address the conflict because of future events that might still occur, future similar events that might still occur. But I think it's just important for people to use their discretions when addressing, conflicts.
When it comes to family conflict, please, it has to be addressed, even though it is not sudden, because your own children, imagine some people, their children can't go and see their uncle because of a conflict like 20-30 years ago. So they need to settle it because of their children.
I think it also depends on the type of conflict though. If it's not something so elaborate, like something so
but do you know some people can still pin that some people can still put it at the back of their mind.
I think that sometimes the reason why I also feel like some conflicts, you just avoid them, like you don't really, because it also in a way helps preserve the relationship. So everybody, oftentimes they have their bad side, good sides, right? And sometimes to just preserve certain relationships, you have to just overlook some things sometimes, or some behaviors or some attitudes that people exhibit.
Okay, let me come in that area, in that as in regard, I can place it with the brother and sister, conflict and all that. That one is normal. That one is normal.
Okay.
They will offend you and all that. That one is not the kind of conflict we are talking about. It's not the type of conflict we are talking about. We are talking about that as in for families, or not at the workplace. Those kind of conflict that enters generations.
Yes, I understand.
You need to settle it. If not, it will affect even the children unborn.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So for the for conflict at the workplace, it's quite somehow, it's the same thing, but it's similar, but it's somehow different, because if there is conflict at the workplace, it will affect the environment. The environment will be toxic, and staff won't be able to work freely and all that. There will be this side gossips and all that, and it is not conducive at the workplace.
So I want to ask, do you think that most conflicts are sponsored mainly on misunderstandings, or ego also has a part to play? Ego, like the ego of people.
I think I should pick ego first, because like some people, you didn't really do them anything, but they really don't like you. Maybe because somehow they feel like internally they feel like you are better than them and all that, so they tend to want to feel superior, and they just form this imaginary conflict that even though you greet them, it won't be receptive as that. So those ones are just, I would just call it silence, conflict and all that, because some people can be in conflict with you, but they can shine their teeth and all that. But I would love a person or a staff at the workplace or anywhere, if you have conflict with me, I would prefer you address it, we trash it together, than having something at the back of your mind against me, then you'll be smiling at my front.
I think, in my opinion, everything still comes down to misunderstanding. So even people having conflicts with you is as a result of the misunderstood perception that they have about you. So I think that conflicts often result from misunderstanding, whichever perspective we want to take it. But I think where ego comes in is in the resolution aspect. So a lot of conflicts don't get resolved because of the ego of the people involved. So like you mentioned that one person might have to compromise for just the peace to reign. Sometimes both parties don't want to compromise. Nobody wants to admit that anybody's wrong. Like, they want to stay in their rights. So I think that sometimes ego is what hinders the resolution or prolongs resolution. And so I think that any space you find yourself, I mean, they always say that saying sorry does not mean you're the one at fault. Or it doesn't mean that you are weak. It just means that you are wise enough to let that conflict go. You are wise enough to preserve your energy. You are wise enough to preserve that relationship. I think it's very important not to avoid the resolution of conflict. Once there is a misunderstanding or a conflict in a workspace or in your environment or wherever you find yourself, it's important that you address the situation. But you have to know when is the best time to address it. Either you wait for a later time or you address it immediately. And then don't let your ego stop you from letting peace reign. Okay, so following up on all that we've been saying now, I want to ask for your opinion. Do you think that, after the conflict, then there's the resolution and people say, oh, sorry, I'll do better or I'll work on it. Do you think they actually change? Like, do you think the change that comes after that resolution is real, authentic, or they are just trying to adjust or just make believe, or it's just temporary?
Okay, I think the change is real to some extent. But if the person has ego, the person might just want to let it slide.
So how can you tell when a change is genuine or when it's just temporary?
When the change is genuine, you won't see the mistake again. Like, it won't show up again. Those are the parameters that do cause the conflict before. You see that everybody is going to watch how they behave, how they speak, because now you know that, oh, if I say this into this my fellow staff, he or she is going to react. So you now have a better understanding of the view of the other staff, and you now have a better understanding about yourself and the rest of the staff. So it will help you to be able to know how to navigate, to speak, to make decisions, understand, so that you won't step on toes. So I'm sure conflict resolution, when it is being solved, there ought to be changes.
Okay, so I agree with what you said, and I also think that, well, sometimes we are human, to be honest, and most times we might even say, oh, I won't do this again, from a genuine, point of view, like from a genuine place. You might say you might not do it again, and then because you are human, you might find yourself still doing it. So I think how to gauge if a change is actually genuine is the person's intentional effort towards that correction. So even if the person falls into error again, the person is willing to admit it, oh yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And then the person is willing to retrace their steps until they are perfected in that area. But once it's temporary, you can tell that the person is just, maybe for that period of time, the person just tries to do things well to please you, and then afterwards when they err again, they are not bothered. They are not concerned.
And sometimes when you are in an organization that the staffs are not cultured, then you get to meet a lot. Like, there won't even be any conflict as a resolution in the first place. They'll just pretend like it happens. They'll just pretend like it happened, but when they go by the side, they start gossiping. So I think that in the workplace, the type of staff that is being employed matters also.
It affects it. So do you think that conflict strengthens relationships? Or it breaks it?
It strengthens relationship. Let me take those in relationship, for example. You understand? Boyfriend and girlfriend stuff. They do boyfriend and girlfriend stuff. And do you know that some girls, they'll be looking for more trouble, because it's like maybe they feel like the love is
not real.
Like, it's getting, like, the love is not as it used to be. Sometimes I think that's don't know the mentality. I don't understand the mentality. They tend to like create trouble or something, so that
I think sometimes it's for attention, or sometimes they just feel like the person is not exhibiting their real character traits, so they are trying to push the person to the wall to see the person's,
to see how far maybe he or she can
go. But I think that actually in every context, I believe, and it also depends on the parties involved, that conflict helps to strengthen relationships, either work relationships, family relationships. Because what conflict does is that it exposes the flaws that both parties have, and then they are able to understand, to recognize, oh, this is a flaw, let's work on it together. So they are able to work on that flaw and get better, and it also helps them to avoid future occurrences of that same incident. So in a way, they've progressed, they've moved past a point to another point.
Okay, that is, as in, that also happens with the husband and wife in the family. You could see when a man as recently takes in a wife at that beginning stage, they tend to have conflicts and all that. But when they start having the conflict, they start seeing the flaws. Oh, this is where this one comes in, this is where they start to adjust, and you see that even 10-20 years, it's just like, in fact, they are brothers and sisters. And what other people might see as flaws, again, they don't see it, because everything is just, they know how to navigate through it.
Okay, so I want to ask a genuine question, and I'm going to answer too. Have you ever lost either work relationship, family relationship, friendship relationship because of conflict? And was it because of how you handled it, or was it because of the other party involved?
Honestly, I don't have much friends, maybe just one as the one friend. So and we are in cordial relationship till now. So I don't really know how to answer that question. When it comes to conflict in the workplace, I'm the kind of person that will resolve it. I might not resolve it immediately. I'm going to keep quiet for like 1 to 2 weeks because I know that if I start immediately, it might not go well. So I wait for like 1 week, 2 weeks, and all that. So at the workplace, there is conflict. is conflict, but I tend to wait a little bit longer before I say my mind. But if it is for relationship and all that, I don't really have any conflict that I regret or something.
Yeah, so I think, well, I've had a couple of I've had a couple of lost maybe friendships or lost not even friendships now, maybe work relationships, right?
Okay.
And I won't really say maybe because I didn't handle them well. I think that both the interest of both parties were not aligned.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that maybe that would have been what affected. And I think one thing I learned from the experience is that as much as you can, try to preserve relationships, because it's important, right? Everybody is going to err you, everybody is going to offend you at some point, but how you handle the situation, right, and how you are able to look past the person's flaw and just accommodate the person also plays a significant role. So I think that we've come to the end of this conversation. There are so much more we could cover on that conflict, but I'd like for you, our viewers, to just share with us one conflict resolution method you have maybe imbibed or adopted as an individual that has helped you, maybe professionally, maybe personally, and one person you've maybe had a fallout with, and maybe it was your fault or the person's fault, and how you handled the situation. Yes, so we've come to the end of today's episode. I don't know if you have final words.
Okay, I would say let peace reign. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. Let peace reign.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This episode has been beautiful and quite engaging. So please do well to like this video, to share, to subscribe, and we will see you in our next video. Stay tuned.